Hello, everybody. Really be happy to be presenting at ETHIndia for the second time, and this one is very special because I'm wearing a kurta, and the first guy who hired me, Webhav, who is sitting right there. So a big shout out to him for bringing me in this space 7 years ago. Let's get started. Uh, let's get started to building a full stack Web3 DApp using the graph. Okay. In this, the way it goes is first of all, I explain what the graph is, then tell you the bounties that we have offered in ETH India, which is 7.5k US dollars, and then I'll give a demo as to how to write a smart contract, deploy it, and then build a subgraph on top of it. Okay, if that's cool, let's get started. First of all, it's very important if you're building on the graph that you guys should scan this particular QR code. So I'm just waiting for like 2 minutes if somebody wants to scan this QR code. This is all the developer resources that are required for you to build on the graph. If that's clear, let's start with what is the graph, okay? Why was the graph created? So first of all, if you see blockchains, there are certain limitations to, it's a right optimized system, right? The system architecture of blockchains are created in such a way that it's right optimized and it's very, very secure to make sure that it's decentralized. But the problem is that reading is a very big issue. Getting the data from different blockchains to your front end app is a very, very complicated, cumbersome issue. And there are certain solutions, to be honest. There are some 2.5 solutions in which you can use an RPC or you can use like centralized providers to get the data, but then you will not be, your application will not be called a decentralized application, because in a way you're storing the data in a decentralized platform, but the way you're getting it to your front end can be compromised. So you need something like the graph, which will in a decentralized fashion give you the data to the front end. So if you simply say what the graph is a middleware between the smart contract and your front end, so that whatever data you're storing inside your smart contract, that can be pushed to the front end using the graph. Okay. Right now the graph decentralized network has 100 indexers, and if you want to win a bounty, you need to deploy a subgraph on the graph network itself. What is a subgraph? The graph is the protocol, and subgraph is basically your data that you need from the smart contract, right? The graph indexes the blockchain data, but you need to tell that, hey, this is my smart contract address, this is the start block of that particular smart contract address. Please just index this particular data for me. So that subgraph is you telling the graph that in a programmatical language that this is what I need, please get this for me. So this is what subgraphs do. Okay. And if you just want to see how the graph works, you can think of like, okay, so the first in a block, this is the data. With the graph, it can be assembled in a way that you get what you need so that you can query it in the best usable format. Okay. How is a subgraph built? Basically, a subgraph is you first of all write a smart contract, and that smart contract has events, and in that events are being emitted and being listed on the subgraph.yaml file, which is the manifestation file. The second thing is the logic file, so that you can convert that event data, raw data, in the data that in the way you want. And the last part is the schema, right? That's where you get the data. That's where you get the queryable data. We'll be going through this when I create a subgraph for you guys, so don't worry. So if you are building a subgraph, we have these bounties: $1,000 for winning. If you build the best subgraph, there is judging criteria. We'll be checking it out. You cannot give a vanilla subgraph. You cannot do a code gen subgraph and win a bounty. There are certain criteria in which you will win the bounty, for which we'll be going in details for. So the best prize is $1,000, $800, and $700. If you have a smart contract, you should also have a subgraph for sure. Also, the cool thing is we are also giving 10 people, other than these 3 people, we are giving 10 people, 10 projects, $250 each if they are building on the subgraph on the graph, and what they build is really cool, and they use subgraph for sure. So this is kind of a pool price from our side. Querying subgraphs. Now there are 2 things that you can do. If you're writing your smart contract, you need to build your own subgraph. If you're not writing your own smart contract and just analyzing data from different protocols, you can actually just query a particular protocol, and in that the subgraph already exists. So for querying, you just need to go to the Graph Explorer and check what you want to query and get the data. I'll just give a small demo of the same. Let's go to the Graph Explorer and see the first top 10 sales of CryptoPunk NFTs, right? Let's see that. So to do that, I need to go to CryptoPunks. find a CryptoPunk subgraph. I will be using, let's say, okay, let's use this one. Now, let's see the sales of the top 10 subgraphs that has happened, okay? Here is account, there's punks, and I can just directly go and query the sales USD value of this particular thing, right? Bid and USD. This should be able to give me the data that I need. First five. So see, this is the CryptoPunks information, and the USD bid and the data is all available in this particular way, right? So if you are creating your own smart contract, you need to build a subgraph. If you are directly querying protocols to get the data, analyze it in your front end, then you can just directly go on the graph.com/explorer and find that particular protocol and just start querying that particular subgraph directly, okay? This is about querying. Let's go towards creating a subgraph now. What if you build your own smart contract? Now you need to actually get the data from the blockchain, creating your own subgraph. This is how a subgraph should be built. There is a blockchain right below, then is your smart contract. Then the middleware between your front end and the smart contract is the subgraph, okay? There are two ways to do it. One way is if you're using Scaffold ETH, you can directly go on, you can directly like install Scaffold ETH and do -e subgraphs, and the subgraph dependencies will come to you. That should be fine. If you don't do that, then you should be using Remix or something like that for writing smart contract code. And for that, there is a different way to get the data. That we will be seeing it now. So what I'll do is, first of all, for the demo, right? I will first of all deploy a smart contract, right? Then we will create a subgraph of that and then query that particular subgraph. If that's cool, let's get started. So I go on Remix to create a ERC20 vanilla subgraph. Let's see. This is the subgraph that this is the smart contract that I have. Let me go and first of all disconnect. Now let's compile this smart contract. It's a ERC20 token smart contract, vanilla, very open Zeppelin, very simple smart contract. Let's deploy this smart contract. Inject. Now deploy. I'm using Arbitrum one for deploying my smart contract. It's a mainnet. So I'm spending some dollars for this particular demo, but I hope you have fun. Let's see how it works. So this is my smart contract that I've deployed. You can see over here. The smart contract is deployed. See, we have the smart contract. It's a ERC20 smart contract. Now we will create a subgraph of this, okay? So let's go to create a folder. Let's name it ETHIndia. Go inside ETHIndia. And you need to first of all make sure that you have the graph dependencies. If you don't, then npm install -g global graph CLI. Okay. Once you have that, the next thing you need to do is graph init Ethereum subgraph slug ETHIndia. It's an ETHIndia token that we are creating today. Arbitrum 1 is the chain that I'll be deploying it on. The smart contract address is this particular address. Let me make sure I copy the right address that I've just deployed. It will fetch the data from ABI of the Etherscan here. If you are deploying a smart contract which is not verified, make sure it's verified. And then the smart contract with subgraph codegen should be able to get all the data that's required. Okay. In the meanwhile, what we'll do is we'll log into the subgraph studio while the subgraph is getting created. So what I did up till now, I made a ERC20 smart contract, and then I deployed it on Arbitrum chain. Once it was deployed, I did graph init in my local repo and directly copied the smart contract address and let that run. While that's been going on, I've logged into the subgraph studio here, and I'll be creating a new subgraph and name it ETHIndia. create. Okay, cool. So I've created this account in the graph.com/studio, and here is my subgraph. So the subgraph is created now. Let's go and check this subgraph code out a little bit more for you guys to understand. So if I go here, you will see three most important files. The first is the YAML file, YAML file. The YAML file tells the details like, oh, this is the smart contract address, right? These are all the entities that, or basically event entities that needs to be indexed. A transfer, ERC20 domain change, and approval, right? These are the particular events that the smart contract will be tracking for me, right? And then there is GraphQL, like telling them that I need approval data like this. I need the transfer data like this. So let's say I transfer 10 ETHIndia tokens from my wallet to WebHub's wallet, then it will basically be like a event which will be tracked by the subgraph. Okay, this is how this particular thing works. Now what we do is see the mapping file, which is the most important file. So from converting the raw data that comes over here to the finished data that is driven over here, you need to map the logic between the raw data to the way it is, like, to the most purest form, which can be queried with GraphQL, and this is the logic that you write for that. Once all these things are already done by the code gen, right? But if you are wanting to win, you cannot directly just do graph code gen and win a bounty. You need to write a better subgraph. You need to write a denser subgraph with more data. Okay, we'll go in that next, but for now, I hope you understood. There is a YAML file for introduction. There is a schema.graphql for the data that the schema way you want to query, and then there is a mapping file so that the raw data can be mapped to the schema file that you need. Once all these things are done, we can just start deploying the subgraph. But here I'm not looking for all the data. I'm just looking for approval event. Like if I approve somebody to get transfers, I'll just need that data. So let's just cancel everything else. Just approvals. Everything else is not needed, so I'll just delete that. Here as well, just handle approvals. Everything else is not required. Okay, cool. We need to also get rid of this, and yeah, then it should be all good. All right, the next thing that we need to do is first of all authenticate, right? Authenticate my stuff. Once it's authenticated, the next thing I need to do is code gen and build to make sure that the subgraph that I've created is right. Like it's the code and everything is right. It does the type checking. Okay, that is also fine. Now the next thing that I'll be doing is deploying this particular subgraph. Deploying this subgraph on the graph node so that all my data can start to track. Okay, so I have deployed the subgraph over here, and you can see it live on the studio any moment. See the subgraph is already here. We go on the playgrounds and try to find data. There is no data. Why? Because we have not done any transactions over here, right? Now the next thing I'll do is I'll make a transaction just to show you how this data is being captured by this, subgraph. So let's make a transaction. Let's do an approval. I'll be doing this approval. 100 transfer max, next, approve. See the data, I've done a transaction. I'm trying to approve to make a token transfer happen. Up till now there was no data because I did not do any transactions yet. Now to get that on-chain smart contract data to my front end, I can directly use subgraph GraphQL API that you can find over here to get the data, and the data would directly come here. I'll click one button and the data will be with me. Just see, I get the data, right? The on-chain data being posted off-chain for any front-end user to use, directly possible through this. And again, if you want to win a bounty, publish the subgraph on the graph network. Publish the subgraph. See here, I publish the subgraph using some Arbitrum gas fees for any chain. We are live on 40 plus chains, so don't worry on that. But the subgraph is deployed on the graph network, and I deployed the subgraph, and I go on the Graph Explorer to start querying my subgraph. Okay, here I go here, and this is the ETHIndia subgraph that I have created. I can just start querying it. Here you can see, like, the query API. It's a GraphQL API. You can use it in your front end to get all the data that you need. So I created a smart contract, right? That smart contract had events, and to track those events and get that data, I created a subgraph, deployed it on the graph network, and started getting the data with this publication of the subgraph on the graph network, and using this GraphQL API in the front end, right? This is how everything works. I hope you understood and I did justice to the demo. If you're not building a subgraph, you're looking for a more niche use case in which you need not just event data, but also like internal transactions. Let's say I send 10 ETH from my wallet to vasa.eth, and I want to track that. That's not possible with subgraphs. I need to build a substream for that. And if you're building a substream, which is a totally different technology, for that also we have bounties. So just repeating, we have 3 bounties. One is subgraph bounties. First prize 1000, second prize 800, third prize 700. If you build a mediocre subgraph, but you still have a chance, 10 people get $250 each. And if you're building a substream for a more niche use case, these are the prices that we offer. I hope you understood all of it. To get the judging criteria to win a subgraph bounty, this is what you need to scan. This is the most important thing. When you come on Sunday to show us your project, this is what we will be seeing. Okay, so just scan this, and based on the subgraph you create, we will be judging you. Create a better subgraph, use arrays, use enums, create template if you want, maybe use graph client to poll the data. All those things are possible with the demo that I showed you. If there are any questions, I can take it up here. If else, we can just meet outside. I'll be at the booth all day. Thank you.